Hello and welcome to Colleague 7 Sprint Review for 18.04.02. This covers the work undertaken between the 17th of April to the 30th of April. So starting with the sprint goal, and for this sprint our primary goal has been to enhance the management of skills when using the CV parser. Looking at the high level items and to explain further, in this sprint we've been working on the management of text kernel skills when using the CV parser. To explain, at the moment when you're parsing a CV, text kernel, which is our third-party CV parsing engine, will provide Colleague 7 with a list of skills it has found in the CV. We then map these skills against the ones you've created on the system. But there are also a second set of skills which are text kernel specific skills, and these have previously been included and created on the system during registration. What we've done now is give you the option of seeing these text kernel skills and also choosing whether you wish to create them. This will allow you to keep a tighter control of the management of your skills. The other key component which has been delivered is the invoice details page on the company record. This is part of our back office project and the second of 3 stages before we can announce back office integration as a component to Colleague 7. We'll now go through a brief demonstration on the key features from this sprint. Okay, so the first component I'd like to go through is the CV parser updates, specifically around the management of skills. Before going into that, I'd like to go into global settings just to highlight 2 additional global settings that have now been added to the system in relation to these updates. So if we launch the global settings area, and then if I just default down to the integration section, or filter down to the integration section here, what you'll see is there are 2 options here for create text kernel skills, which is a yes no, and show text kernel skills, which again is a yes no. We'll leave those as they are just for the moment. We'll come back to those, but that's just a starting point on those new global settings. In terms of the parsing process, what I'll do is I'll quickly parse a CV. Just let that parse through. The data comes back. It does advise me on this particular CV that there's potential duplicates found. I've used this CV many times on this system, so that's to be expected. But the key update that's been applied here in terms of how things will be different within the UI is the skills tab. So on the skills tab, you'll notice that there are now 2 different boxes for skills. One are colleague skills and the other one is text kernel skills. So the colleague skills are your skills. That's the skills you've added onto the system that are specific to the skills library that you want to have in place and have things associated with. The text kernel skills is text kernel's own external skills library that they have cross-referenced against your CV, and they've come back with suggestions on skills that they feel are present within the CV. Now, what we've previously done is basically combine all of these skills together into one long list, and it's created confusion obviously in doing so. So obviously by segregating these, that means that you have the option to either include these skills and add them into the system, or to just focus on your skills that you've created there against there. And there's been a couple of UI updates relating to that as well. We've got these tick boxes for selecting all tick boxes. The parent skill of a colleague skill will be presented just in slightly grayed out font there, just as a prefix to the skill that's been found. Obviously you've got the same tick box approach on the text kernel skills, and you've got an add to colleague option as well. And if you untick the add to colleague option, all those tick boxes will be grayed out. If I just quickly show in global settings, if we change these options here, so if we would prefer not to see the text kernel skill recommendations, then what we can do, if I reparse that same CV on the basis that we've now set those to no, on parsing that same CV, when we go to the skills tab, you'll see now that the colleague skills will only be listed, so there isn't that confusion of the text kernel skills being listed. This will just list all colleague skills that have been found against the CV that you've obviously parsed against the system. If you did choose to add those colleague skills, just to make it clear where they would go, within the lookups area, and within skill categories, there's a segment in here for text kernel skills. So if you chose to add them to colleague, they would go within here. But the feedback we were getting was very much that they weren't welcome, essentially, that you very much wanted just to have your skills being checked against the CV, and obviously to then pass and add in accordingly. So that's the update we've made against the system. So the other component to cover relates to the invoice details page that's been added to the company record. Just again, starting within the admin area, one new component that's been added relating to this is a user group permission. Relating to whether or not a user has access to the invoice details page. We also did one for the payment details page. So this is for invoice details against a company record, and you need that to be set to full access in order to be able to see this page. But if I go to a company record, the specific update that's been applied is this option here for invoice details, and on clicking that, it will launch what is essentially the same. If you previously had version 6, you'd know that there's a batch of fields that are associated with the back office workflow that need to be held against a company record. So this is the area where you can have by default store the registration number, the VAT number, the accounting reference relating to the system as well, relating to the client as well, their tax code, invoice address. You can also assign an invoice contact. So I do that there, just assign that, and again that will go through there. I'll put some test details in here. Test VAT. Let's go to 20. Invoice address. There, invoice method, company. You've got a frequency option for invoicing, and then margin only, and there's just to clarify in case there's any ambiguity on margin only, there's a little toolbar there just to explain what margin only is about. So that covers the fields that basically are then held against the company record. Obviously those details are hidden or shown based on someone calling the invoice details page. If you choose to press on this cross option, that's going to give you the option to clear all of these fields from the company record, which you can choose to do there by hitting yes, and that will clear it down. The reason why you can do that is because it is an option to use a different company. So I spelled that wrong. Is it possible to use a different company against the company record? And if you choose to do that, say that is a parent company, for example, then what it will do is it will make these fields read-only, and it will pull in the details from that company into this record, and obviously you can then clear that down if you wish, and it will default back to the current company, and obviously these fields will then become writable again. So that's just how that functionality works. We've obviously done a payment details section against the candidate record. This is the invoice section against the company. So the next section that we'll be doing is the back office tab against a placement record, which will pull in both these field types into that area, and then from there you've obviously got a placement record that holds all of the pay and charge related information, and obviously the invoicing details associated with it. So we're all gearing up essentially to the integration that we're looking to put in place over the course of the next couple of sprints. But that's the invoice details page as part of this sprint. As always, if you have any queries or feedback, please get in touch. I'll be keen to hear from you. Also, for those using Colleague 7, feel free to submit your enhancement requests via the support team or directly to me using the above email address. The next video will be the sprint plan for 18.05.01, and as always that will contain a high-level overview on the items we intend to work on during that sprint. Thanks for watching.